Good evening, everybody. Nice that you're here. I see some familiar faces. That's nice. Welcome. You've probably also realized that right now the world is changing really fast. Like the past few years, it was like a decade almost. And there seems to be a real power shift going on multiple fronts. And on those multiple levels, one of those shifts is decentralization. Decentralization. And organizations are changing too. Companies are changing. As a matter of fact, organizations are decentralizing. In the meantime, I'm letting in a couple more people. So this remote work revolution that we've all seen happening since start of COVID, what is this? Well, this is actually decentralization of the workforce. We see the decentralization revolution happening on all fronts. There's power right now shifting away from companies to remote workers. And those remote workers are fed up being told what to do, of being micromanaged, of sitting in a cube from 9 to 5, or having to beg for a day off. So the future of the workforce wants actually freedom and autonomy. And companies that don't adapt to that are actually at risk, and because they will miss out on talents. And they will experience silent strikes. People not performing, although they're being paid. And eventually they will run out of business. So adaptation to that change, to the decentralization of the organization, that's what is survival for companies right now. And the time to adapt is right now because the decentralization has just started. This is only the beginning of the decentralization revolution. Now, how then? How should those companies adapt? Well, the key to that is autonomous organization. And I call the autonomous organization the autopilot. Now, welcome to this webinar. A little bit about me. My name is Leon van der Laan. I'm Dutch by origin. I'm the founder of Remote, boutique consulting agency, helping entrepreneurs to find this autopilot on their business and to gain back more time for other things that matter more, plus having a team that's more engaged and motivated and actually want to stay there. I have 20 years of leadership experience at H&M Hennes & Mauritz, huge clothing company, you probably know it. I'm now 6 years in consulting. I've also been a tech startup CEO. I'm super passionate for strategy. I'm actually also certified in that. Passion for productivity, actually productivity geek, you can say. I'm also a startup mentor here in Lithuania, where I live actually. And I'm a speaker on some of those events every year. Now, what is my mission? I'm on a mission to help 1 million entrepreneurs through different ways, through these webinars, through clients, through content, to help them find and switch on that autopilot mode in their business. Now you probably ask, like, okay, so that's all cute and funny. Why do you care about that, Leon? Well, in my work in the corporation, but also in my last 6 years of working as a consultant, I experienced this. I've seen entrepreneurs and their people actually experience it, which is stress, burnouts, anxiety, overwhelmedness, conflicts, divorces, tiredness, no time with family, and depression. Sorry for this negative list, but I have to address the elephant in the room, because this is really what I see on a regular basis, especially when I start speaking with companies that are seeking help. And the thing is that I've been in that deep, dark hole myself twice, and it was terrible. Here's my burnout timeline. So when I was 25 years old, I was just starting out as a director and way too controlling on everything around me. I was controlling people. I was controlling the work that I did. I was controlling. Right now, we have a beautiful word for that, which is micromanagement. Yeah, I was a micromanager. I really was. And you know what? I paid the price for it because I was the one that burned out, and it put me out of business for 9 months. So I was this young director, just promoted, half a year in, and I was 9 months out during that year. Thankfully, it didn't have a negative impact on my career since I stayed there for 20 years. But I thought I learned the lesson, right? I thought that I had figured it out right now. I'm the guy who had the burnout, so I know what to do. But the truth is, 10 years later, when I was 35, I had another burnout, 6 months long this time. I was severely overworked. I just had children. My son was a few years old. I tried to combine everything, my hobbies, my friend's life, my work, my career, and I was overworked, burned out. That's when I probably needed to learn the lesson. So at age 37, I left the corporate and I moved into my own boutique consulting business. I'm now 41 years old. I work around 20 to 30 hours per week, and my business does 6 figures. Now, why am I mentioning that? It's because I figured out in those last years how I can automate my business. Now, I am a one-man show with some help around me in the forms of assistance. But the methodologies and the tricks that I've learned over the time in the corporate also makes this work for small, medium, and large organizations. So that's the reason why I'm actually so invested in this topic, because I literally feel that anxiety and depression that I had myself when I go back, and it's something that I want to eradicate. Because you might be there too. You might be in a job, you might be in a company, you might have started your business, and you're experiencing those same things that I've experienced too. But if you're not, great. And you should definitely avoid it at all costs. Unfortunately, these things are on the rise right now, especially since 2020, you know what happened. Now, how then? Well, if you build a company that depends less on your time and energy, and by that you increase your people's engagement with freedom and autonomy, then you are simply not needed in that company as much as you're needed right now. And you can spend your time on the things that matter more to your business or even outside of your business. So that's why I want to give you 4 simple steps today to start building that autopilot on your business and grow to the next stage. And I give you 4 steps because if I would give you all the steps, we would sit here probably five hours. So I want to give you the points where you really have to start with. And these are basically a very simplified version of what business strategy is about, what organization is about, and what leadership is about. So let's dive in. Because an organization on autopilot is an organization that is autonomous and that engages people and needs less of you. But also because an autonomous organization is more scalable and more profitable. And actually, HBS, the Harvard Business School, the research showed that it's 40% more profitable and scalable than non-autonomous organizations. There are some metrics in which you can measure the level of autonomy in an organization, which is too much for today, but those figures are confirmed figures. So that's why we'll cover today the 5 stages of the autopilot. Then we have 4 steps: perspective, boundaries, plan and measure, and patterns. Let's start with the autopilot, because you're probably thinking, yeah, what do you mean now with this autopilot thing? Yeah. Okay. So I really took the analogy of the pilot here because there are 5 stages, and stage number 1, this is, you remember those old planes made of paper and wood. Those were the days where the pilot was actually flying the plane with the stick in his hands, right? So if he did nothing, or he let go of the stick, or he makes a miscalculation, the plane crashes. So it's the pilot flies the plane literally. And that is autonomous organization 1.0. And then by the vast majority of businesses start at this stage of the organization because they take all the decisions, the founders, the entrepreneur, and also they execute a lot. Startups are definitely in this stage, right? Then there's stage 2. Now you can see the cockpit. That's for the first time that a pilot actually got a few metrics or measures to support the pilot in decision making. But he was still necessary in the cockpit. If he would let go of the steering, the plane would go down and it was over. So that is the autonomous organization 2.0. There are early signs of maturity, but still it's very much dependent on the founder. Some businesses do start here, and they might skip the whole stage one altogether and just, usually experienced entrepreneurs know where to start on a later stage. Now, then there's stage 3. That's when planes got much more advanced flight systems. They could now steer basically the whole plane during the flight, only using the data. And those early autopilot functions kept, some autonomy to the plane because it could cruise without having to steer it. That's autonomous organization 3.0. Most businesses I work with sit actually at this stage because usually the organization works well. They have 20, 30, maybe 40 people, maybe even direction 100, they have processes, but the founders and entrepreneurs still cannot really fully detach from their business yet. They're still necessary in the cockpit. And now it becomes more exciting. Hang on with me. Because there's stage 4. That is the stage where the autopilot really became the standard. Because now planes can basically take off, cruise, and land fully on autopilot. The human pilot is actually not necessary anymore, just regulations that the pilot sits in the cockpit. Because the pilot can track the whole plane's performance by just looking at the cockpit. He can step out of the cockpit. He could actually jump out of the cockpit with a parachute if he wants, and the plane would still end his achieve his destination. So that's the autonomous organization 4.0. I've seen very few businesses actually really nailing this stage. This is the businesses that are the 1% success stories, or maybe it's the 5%, but it's one out of a very few companies that really manage this. And that's also a stage where you see serial entrepreneurs. They run several businesses because they have to be efficient and they have to reduce their time in the cockpit, and they've learned how to do that. And then there's the future of organizations. That's stage number 5. That is the stage of fully autonomous flying, the drone stage, right? The pilot is actually not a pilot anymore, just an interactive observer sitting somewhere safely on the ground while the plane flies 100% based on systems, basically. And that is the autonomous organization 5.0. This is where the really few entrepreneurs sit. That's probably where the huge names sit, the multi-million euro people that have tons of businesses, Branson, you name it, Mark Cuban. So they build business without ever sitting in the cockpit, right? So those are the 5 stages of an autonomous organization. And for me, and also what I hear from my clients, that the analogy of the cockpit and the plane and the pilot actually works really well to understand this in a very structured way. So the question is then, what stage is your organization at? Are you still flying the plane with the stick in your hands, or do you have already some way of making that automated, right? Do we have some autopilot functions already at play? So, all those stages, you have to work your way through it, and there's no right or wrong to be on any stage. But I want to give you the 4 steps that every business, whether you're at whatever stage you are, you actually need to master. And that is step number 1, is create a perspective. Now, what is perspective, you would ask? Well, this is the direction and the personality you envision for your company. Yes, your company has its own personality. We communicate that through core values, but it's very important to create that perspective of who the business is and where the business is going. It answers actually the questions on why do we exist, who are we, what do we want to do, how do we want to do it, who benefits from it, and where does it take us? You see, that's the 6 W's. That is what the perspective of a company does. So can you imagine that you have a conversation with somebody in your company, and that person would ask you these 6 questions, and you would only be able to answer half of them? How can you expect the person to know what he or she should do in the company to get to the vision that you have for it? You as an entrepreneur need to be crystal clear about these answers on those questions. So as I said, it's like, it moves into the mission statement, the vision statement, and the core values. Now, there are different words out there. Some call it guiding principles, others call the vision statement the purpose of the company. The mission is quite generally used. There's all different ways of saying the same thing. Your company needs a perspective. That's where it all starts. People need to understand, what is the meaning of my work? Why am I doing this? And what am I contributing towards? Because if you don't have a clear perspective in your company, it's like a broken compass. So try to find your way in a forest with a broken compass. It will take you to the craziest places, provided you didn't take your phone with Google Maps, of course. But let's say that's broken, and you have the same thing. So step 1, the action summary of step 1 is go out and create and communicate a clear perspective for your company in the form of a mission, vision, and values. That is your absolute starting point. There's a ton of content out there on the internet where you can teach it yourself how to do that. You can check it with your peers, with other entrepreneurs, but that is where you absolutely need to start. And if you have your mission and vision, your values already, how sure are you about it that you're really living them? Question that yourself as well. And how often have you tested it with other people, and how do they interpret it? So that's step number 1. Then we have step number 2, boundaries. This is one that I like a lot, I must say. Why? Because what is the first thing that we learn as human beings? We learn boundaries, right? As soon as we start to grab things, as a little baby, no, you cannot grab this. Then we start to crawl. No, you cannot crawl there. You cannot open this door. It's boundaries all the way, all the time. We people need boundaries. As a matter of fact, we feel free in the Western world, right? I mean, I do, but are we really free? Because these books are the law books. There's so many laws that tell us what we shouldn't do, what happens if we break the law. Are we really free? Or do we feel free because we have boundaries? Well, I think it's the latter. An autonomous organization needs freedom. People need to be able to have their own initiative. People need to be able to speak out their own minds, make mistakes, try new things. But that freedom needs boundaries. And what are boundaries? It is saying no to things. For example, what projects will we not pursue? What clients will we not serve? And what behaviors we won't tolerate? And what kind of actions we will not spend any effort on? And what are the consequences if we do this? It's like when we were children, right? If we broke the boundary, we got consequences. We had to go to our room, etc. This is necessary in business as well. As scary as it may sound, you need to tell people, if you do this with a client, this is a hard no. If we catch you on that, sorry, but you're out. That is how hard you need to be on your boundaries. But that will actually drive the feeling of freedom and autonomy in your organization. So there are several types of boundaries. You have operational boundaries, strategic boundaries, and behavioral boundaries. Okay, and operational is what we do in the operation, what we do, what we don't. Operational in terms of also what kind of actions we don't take for clients. Strategic is what kind of projects, what kind of initiatives, and behavior is, well, business conduct. How do we do business as people? So that's step number 2. So an action summary for you there is go out, discuss with your team to set and communicate very clear boundaries for your business. What is okay? What is not okay? And what happens when boundaries are broken? Very important point, very underrated point. Most of my clients for whom I tell you need to add this list, at first they're quite scary about it. because it's like, oh, we're going to be dark energy, right? But if you have your values and you have your mission and your vision, that's light energy. That's motivation, inspiration, drive. So, if you're very clear on that, it's absolutely not scary to have very clear boundaries, and your people will love you for it. Okay, step number 3, plan and measure. Now, there are probably people here among you that say, yeah, but it's all about execution. Yeah, sure, execution is king, right? I believe so too, provided that you know what to execute on. And for that, people, you need a plan. So a plan has a departure point and a destination, because you're planning from where you are towards where you want to be. Now, your point of departure, that is your status quo. That is your current business. What are we doing right now? How are we doing? How do you understand then how you're doing well at the moment? Well, for that, you need to perform a very company-wide SWOT analysis. Another thing which I see in companies being done wrong. Why? Because they have their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And then what happens is they write 5 keywords on the strengths, 5 keywords on the weaknesses, etc., and so forth. And they said, okay, so we have done our strengths and weaknesses and opportunities. They put it in a drawer. They never look at it. When I do a SWOT with my clients, it takes 2 weeks and probably 5-6 hours of work, because we go very deep in finding what are the strengths, why are they strengths, how come they are a strength, what have we done to make it a strength. That's where the real insights lie. Now, I put opportunities and obstacles because that is also something to identify. Obstacles are opportunities for improvement. And strategy is all about overcoming obstacles. So my version is called SWOT, actually. So when you have found that, you build on your strengths, you strengthen your weaknesses, you invest in your opportunities and obstacles, and you manage your threats. And out of that analysis comes, what are the key initiatives that we as an organization can work at? That is the food for your plan. That are the building blocks, the Lego blocks that you need to start building your plan with. That is your point of departure. Now, we need also a destination, right? So you have your perspective already, right? The perspective is like your compass. Now we need to narrow down what is that destination that we want to go to in the north, let's say. For that, we need to set 3 to 5 big goals for the next 2 to 3 years. Big stands for bold, inspiring, and guiding goals. This is my version of the SMART goal. I don't like the SMART goal. I will not come into that. I like big goals in combination with OKRs, which do a better job than just SMART goals. And why 3 to 5? Well, there are 4 key business areas, which I will show you in a sec. And 2 to 3 years, people, we cannot set goals anymore for 5 years. Everything's developing so fast. And strategy is not being static. Strategy is about being dynamic and adaptability and flexibility and knowing what's going on. So I say big goals, but shorter goals, and adapt faster and set your goals more often. The periods of like 10-year strategy is over. We're developing at such a pace right now. So when you have your perspective, your compass, your big goals, your real destination, that's where you want to land, right? That's where you're flying towards. So now that you have your point of departure and your destination, we have a gap, don't we? So how we're going to fill that gap? Well, for that, we need a strategic flight plan. And for that, we're going to build a cadence. So we have our perspective, we have our big goals, then we can translate that together with the input, the Lego blocks from the SWOT analysis into yearly objectives that we can break down into quarterly objectives and key results. And out of there, we have everything we need to make monthly and weekly plannings for tasks and deliverables for everyone in the team. Sounds simple, right? But it is quite some work to build this, but it is actually simple. if you just follow this structure, promise you, you will get so much more clarity. If you already have this perspective and your plan, that's going to make a world of a difference. So that's your flight plan ready, right? So now you already know, before you step into the plane, when are you going to take off? How long are you flying? Where do you want to land? That is already a big step forward than just sitting in your plane and trying to avoid the thunderstorms that you might encounter. But now we need to measure it, right? We don't want to be the pilot with a stick in our hands. We want to have this fancy, like modern cockpit that we see here. So that's why we need to set 5 with ±2 measures that will tell us how well the flight is going from departure to the destination. What kind of metrics do we need to tell us that? Well, in a plane, it's quite clear, right? We have altitude, how high we're flying, speed, fuel in the tanks. We probably have like how hard the engines are turning, those kind of things. But in your business, is nothing different. You need to look at what are our metrics that tell us whether or not we are staying in the air, actually. There are 4 areas, which is also connected to your big goals. Is learning and development. This is all about people, processes and operation, customer success and quality, and financial. So ideally have for every one of those at least a measure that will tell you how the flight is going. Okay, cool. Are you still with me? Because here we have the summary for step 3. So do this SWOT for departure, set big goals for your destination, set objectives using your SWOT analysis, and break it into weekly and monthly tasks. That is a framework that even I, as a solopreneur, use in order to plan my 2023, for example. As I said, it works for if you're working alone, in a small team, in a bigger team. This is just a thinking process that every entrepreneur should have, and drive the business forward. Because what uses it to get into a plane, take off, and not knowing where you're going to fly. Now, there's another step, and that is to use the patterns. Because all your measures and the execution on your plans will show some patterns. Most businesses kind of fail to look at those patterns, but it's super important aspect as well for adjustment and iteration and agility. Because when the plane doesn't perform well, the cockpit, this dashboard will tell us. And based on that, the pilot adjusts the actions based on the recognition of the patterns. Recognition of the patterns. You see, there is already a learning process behind. Because what are the patterns in your business that will tell whether or not you're doing a good thing? Like in a plane, if the altitude, the height, right, is going down, what is the pilot directly going to say? Brace for impact, we're going down, mayday, mayday? No, because the pilot recognizes the pattern in which we're going down, and it's no danger. But if this meter goes like this, you see this sometimes in these movies when they're going down, and then in the last moment they pull up, right? This is a pattern they recognize, and that means like, okay, alarm, we need to do something. And that pattern counts for the execution on your plan, your metrics, the satisfaction of your customers, the satisfaction of your team, your financial measures, etc. So how do you work with that? Well, that happens, recognizing those patterns and adjusting the course happens in weekly strategic meetings. There's 31% of companies that spend at least 1 hour per month on strategy. 1 hour, 30% of companies. Imagine how many companies don't spend time, probably once a year, on their strategy, on their plans, etc. I'm here to say, make sure you have weekly strategic meetings where you look at the patterns, look at the measures, and adjust your course. And it doesn't have to be endless Zoom meetings, 4 or 5 hours long. It can even be asynchronous. Because if we ask our people weekly, what obstacles are we facing? What has changed since last week? What do we need to do now? And what do we need to stop? That already gives you so much insight. And if you pair that with your dashboard, your metrics, and your KPIs, that's all you need to know to adjust the course for your plane and avoid to hit some kind of Mount Everest top or something. It's that simple. These 4 questions in combination with 5 metrics is all the view you need to at least grow to a very significant level in your business on mostly autopilot. So you automatically adjust course when necessary, right? The plan is not to stick that dogmatically to, and that's our goal, so we shouldn't give up until we reach our goal. No, when the patterns tell you to change course, you should. So there's an action summary of step 4. Build a 1-page measures report, KPI report, if you will. Speak weekly with all people in the organization, no matter what level, and recognize the patterns and adjust your course. Okay. Now, actually, those 4 steps are part of the work that I do with my clients in the remote framework. And the remote framework stands for reflect, elevate, model, objectify, delegate, and excel. And I want to just quickly show you how it has helped other companies as well, right? For example, Jure. I helped Jure grow from 9 to 32 team members by creating a perspective, developing plans, measures, and OKRs, and structure the organization around it. And that way he had more time for strategic and creative work, and his team got more autonomy, and he 5x'd his revenue in 18 months since working. And what Jure says about it himself is that, everybody who wants to take leadership to the next level, build a great business, and work with someone who cares about progress, that's what he said about me. These things really work in real life with real businesses. And there's, for example, also Daniel and Emanuela from Ecom House. I've helped them in the past year on improving leadership, building a perspective, streamline processes, improve productivity, structure a remote team for growth, and also clarify expectations and alignment. And what Emanuela says, for example, is that, if you want to step up your game and jump into new levels of growth, these things work. And here, Daniel said, he became better leader thanks to understanding this framework, and he could grow his team with less stress. Now, who doesn't want to get less stress, right? And there's some more. For example, Raminta, CEO, co-founder of a PR agency. I guided her to challenges to make a company more productive. Processes are more efficient. Now they have strategies and OKRs in place. And most importantly, they operate in a much more open, inspiring environment. Now, who doesn't want that? Like, their people are much more happy right now, thanks to them, Raminta and the other co-founder, to take the courage to implement a whole new structure in their business. And another one, Johan. I helped Johan transfer his business from an office culture with 5 offices in Europe wide to being a fully remote team that now is on the way to become internationally, like on a European level, the biggest player in recruitment, actually. And same framework worked also for him. Now, with that, I want to ask you, do you think it's time to actually get yourself out of your daily operations, or do you still want to wait? Do you want more time for strategic and creative work? Or maybe you want more time for yourself and less stress, just like Daniel wanted. Maybe you want help in learning how you can build this autopilot for your business too. Because I mentioned 4 steps. There are a couple of more. Tools and automations and processes is also part of that. I didn't cover that today because those 4, I think, are key and essential to get going. That's why I'm offering for all the people here, we have 11 people right now. I have 5 free 1-hour consulting sessions that I give to you because I really want to just help you get started with this. This is free, just 1 hour consulting. Just I would work with any normal client. And in that session, I will ask you 10 questions. And after that, after our conversation, which will last an hour, I will send you a personalized report based on our findings with what it is that you specifically for your business can do in the next 3 to 6 months to actually start building that autopilot. And you know what? If I wasted 1 single second of your time during that 1 hour call, you will work 12 weeks for free with me, one-on-one weekly. Really, 100% promise. If I waste 1 second of your time during that call, you will work for free with me. But I also cannot work with everyone. I can only benefit you if you have a high 5 or low 6 figures monthly revenue. If you have a digital product or service, online product or service, not a physical manufacturing product, for example. When you work remote first, or at least you're aspiring to going towards remote in the near future, you have a growth ambition and you want to detach yourself from your daily, I would even say mind-killing operational details. If that's you, then I'm going to paste right now in the chat the link to that booking where you can find the button to work with me, to get that free session with me. So right now we have 20 minutes left on the counter. You are allowed to unmute yourself and raise your hand if you have specific questions about your business based on the topics that I covered today. So I'm just gonna sit here for the next 20 minutes and you can ask your questions. Okay. One question, what about if you are a one-man band? You know what, I'm a one-man band as well. As I said, I have a couple of people that do things for me that I'm not good at and will take too much of my time, right? I also work with a virtual assistant, for example. But you can, you as a solopreneur, you need to be very clear about what it is that you want to do with your business as well. Because strategy is about choice. How can you choose efficiently and effectively where to allocate your precious time, energy, money, and other resources on what activities if you don't figure this out for yourself, right? So if you don't know that part, you are, as I like to call it, a drifting piece of wood in the ocean. You probably have the chance to get on a tropical island somewhere, but you don't want to let it over to luck. So I do these things for myself. As a matter of fact, next week in a follow-up meeting, everyone that was on this call will get a PDF from me, a 2-3 page PDF. I will screenshot there some things that I can show you that I actually do it as a solopreneur myself. And I work with a buddy together. He's also a solopreneur in his business. He's also doing it. And it makes all the difference. You cannot grow your one-man business without knowing where you want to bring your business towards. Okay, so we have Rina a question. What if you're a one-man band who offers a service that's based on skills? Well, I do that, right? I have skills of strategy and organization and leadership.
Specifically your own skills, sorry. Your own skills, like, I'm a translator, say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, your question is, what if you're a one-man band who offers a service that's based on your skills? Well, do you have the ambition to grow your business beyond yourself?
It's honestly something that I never thought about before, but in the last week or so, I'm starting to think about ways. I mean, my business is called Grow Your Business in English, funny enough, but I'm thinking about ways that I could eventually scale it eventually. Right now, it's like me putting in all the work. Yeah. Maybe one day.
Starting a business, out of a skill that you have is a very natural way of starting a business, because it makes a lot of sense, right? You want to monetize that what you're good at. Even better, you want to monetize that what you're good at, what you love doing, and what the world needs. And this is called, I don't know if you ever heard of the Ikigai exercise. If you want, I can share that with you afterwards. I love it. It creates a lot of clarity for you as a person. And it's a great way to start as a step to think about, okay, so do I want to build a business around these skills when I'm actually just good at it and I can be paid for it, but it's not really something that I love doing, or it's not really something that the world needs. So that's where you can start to figure out, like, do I actually want to build a business around my skills further? But if that's a yes, because you like to help people, etc. and so forth, then you need to start understanding, okay, so why is this mattering for me? Why do I like to do this? How do I help the world with that? How do they benefit from it? What is the real problem that I'm solving? Am I just translating a word from A to B, or am I actually giving them some time for their life back, right? That's deep. That's how deep you need to go. Okay, great. So if you understand then what is your perspective in that business, perspective says it already. It goes beyond from the next transaction that you will make in translation. You're having a wider perspective towards the future of what this business is actually doing in the world. And when you understand your perspective, what this business does in the world and how it helps others, then you will automatically see what is more possible with that business, right? So yeah, that's where to start. And then, okay, what kind of things can I accomplish this year to get closer to that? What are the 2-3 goals that I set for myself? And if you're a one-man show, I would start rather with 1 or 2 goals, right? I have also 2 goals for myself. Sorry, I have 3 goals for myself this year. So yeah, that is, it counts for you as well as a solopreneur. Okay, great. So we have Diana, how to deal with quality control. So the team does the work in a creative industry. There's a lot about communication, and we're struggling with the amount of Q&A and feedback we need to provide on a regular basis, which takes a lot of time and attention. I'm not fully sure if I get the full picture of this question. Let me analyze it again a bit.
So I can probably elaborate a little bit.
Yes, please.
Hi, thank you.
Hi.
So we have a team who like produces a lot of creative content, like emails, design, copywriting. And in between these stages, when we deliver the product, we need to provide a lot of like quality control, feedback, and checks in order to ensure materials are like of a great quality. And yeah, it takes a lot of time, and like managerial efforts, because like we understand what the quality of materials should be, and the team doesn't. Like they need collaboration. They need someone else to step in and like just talk, chat, and improve materials. And I'm not entirely sure how can we, improve the stage in order not to take so much of managerial time.
Are there metrics based on which you can tell whether quality is good or not in the work that they do?
Only after they were launched. So let's say we produced materials, we launched them, and yes, we can. But before they were launched, no. And it's that's why it's complicated, because if we launch not really great materials, we can jeopardize our clients.
Okay, so because you get only feedback on that once it is launched, and then you see, let's say, open rate or click-through rate, those kind of things. I understand. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, based on what the limited knowledge I have right now, it's for me, it seems like you need to figure out whether there is a metric before it is launched that can be implemented and measure whether those creatives are good. I think it sits in the metrics You don't have a measure. So when there's no measure, it becomes a person most of the times. So I would go back to the designing team and say, like, okay, what are the metrics that we need in order to ship something from which we are more sure that it hits the quality goals that we have, rather than letting it checked by a person.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, what we have else here? Yeah, Tanya, please unmute and go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So this has been a great session. So the main reason that I joined was that I am on the verge of starting my own venture. I have a business idea. But the thing is that if you're planning on doing that with a couple of people, you need people you can trust. And for now, I don't have people who will be as invested in my idea as I am, because other than skills, you need that sort of zest for that idea that, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to make this go, get through. So now the thing is that I, on my own at this stage, do not have enough money that I can employ people to do things like app design, website design. So when I am lacking skills like that, how do I go about? Because my idea was that I get my partners in such a way that they make up for the skills I lack. But as of now, it's a one-man show. So how do you think I should proceed with this?
Yeah. Are you in a job?
Yes, I'm working as a supply chain consultant.
Okay. So you're building this new startup next to a paid job.
Yeah.
Okay. Then my advice is don't go too fast with that. Build it yourself with the time that you can make free for it. Be okay with it that it takes longer, and bring it to a point where you can bring people to the table, because you have, for example, early traction on paying customers. Because when you have early traction and you can show, then you can attract angel investors. With that money from angel investors, you can attract people. And I wouldn't go at this early idea stage with a co-founder, because finding a co-founder is incredibly difficult. And in 90% of the cases, that goes in the wrong direction. It's even harder than finding a love partner almost. So yeah, I think that we're living in a society where everything is about, we need to be fast, fast, fast. But it's not a sprint, it's a marathon when you're starting a new company. So try to build it yourself, bootstrap it, learn from the process. And as my friend here on the call always says, like, you can only outsource something to somebody else when you really understand it yourself first.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Cedric. Great. Okay, I hope that was helpful, Tanya. Ursa is gone. Bye, Ursa. Rina. Okay. Are there any more questions?
Can I add something there to what you said?
Oh yeah, for
about
sure.
Outsourcing. Okay, so website design, right? When I did my website, I did a course on doing a website.
Great.
And I designed it, and it was very time consuming. It took me like ages to make the website, and it's not like the most expert website. But now, if I had asked someone to do my website or paid someone, I wouldn't have known what was right, what was wrong or anything. But going through the whole process, now I can tell if I ask someone to do a website for me in the future, what's good and what's not. So
yeah, exactly that.
So
yeah,
I spent a lot of my own time doing it, but it was time outside. I still managed to work on my business.
Yeah, well, I made my first 4 websites also myself. I tried WordPress, Squarespace, Wix, and I hate building websites, but I didn't have the money. I just left the corporate. We have somebody talking by Amir. So yeah, so what I want to say, I built my first websites as well. But I think when you're starting out like you are, yes, have a website. One pager, clear information. What do you do? Whom are you serving? How are you serving them? your value proposition, right? Your contact details, and use social media. This is way more effective for a solopreneur these days than starting with your website. I didn't have a website when I started remote, for example. We didn't have a website for the first half a year, I think, and we still landed clients just because we used LinkedIn, we used Facebook, and I say we because back then I was with somebody else. I was out of this business for 1 year in 2021, and since 2022 I'm back, but then alone. So website, yeah, have it, but your social media presence and building your authority around your skills and around your name, personal branding, in other words, is the way to do it as a solopreneur. And there are a ton of people on LinkedIn that you can follow and just not copy paste what they do, but basically replicate what they are doing in terms of their content, in terms of engaging on posts from others, all in your target area of clients. That is a much better way to start than having a website. But like I said, it's good to have a website as a sort of digital business card. So Tanya is making a Wix website. Great. I hope it got better since I used it for the last time. Okay, so I think we have the room for one more question, actually, I would say, if somebody wants. Okay, no questions. That's amazing. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. We have Amir. Okay, Amir, you're on the brink of the... Go ahead. You can unmute yourself and go ahead with your question.
Hey, hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
And, I'm sorry for my last action. Actually, I want to ask something about the marketing prospect. What do you suggest to me if I want to get some client from open market like LinkedIn and other social platforms, but I don't have any idea about it and also didn't deal with anyone before this. If I found someone to deal or get a lead, it will be my first time. Then how I need to deal with it, or how would I can convince someone with me? Can you give some points, please?
Your question is if you... Dag Roman. Ik zie dat je Nederlands bent. I see that you're Dutch. Thank you, Roman. If I understand, you are also alone in this, right?
Yes.
Yes, and your question is whether it's better to try to find a lead yourself or let somebody else find a lead for you.
No, myself.
Yeah, so your question is either let somebody else do it or do it yourself, yeah?
No, yes, I want to do it myself.
You will do it yourself. What is your question then?
Sorry?
What is your question? Sorry, I didn't get your question.
Oh, okay. I am repeating. Actually, I want to ask if I found someone on LinkedIn or other platform for some kind of services he or she need, and I am the provider, but I don't have idea how to present my company's presentations or company's work, and I am confusion due to I didn't deal anyone else before this. It will be my first time. Can you suggest some points how I start and how I will convince someone very first time even dealing, get it?
Mm-hmm. Understand the problem that you're solving for them and propose them a solution to it.
Yes. Thank you.
It sounds very simple, I know, but that's how simple it is. My first clients came through LinkedIn messages by me understanding what the problem is that they face and knowing that I have a solution that solves it. And then, of course, you speak to 20 and they don't want, 20 people don't want to. No, I'm okay, but there's the 21st says, okay, let's have a conversation about it. And then I started out very small when it comes to pricing myself. Really, I way underpriced myself in the beginning, which is how I did it, right? It's not necessarily that everybody needs to do the same. But then I had one referral. and I had one testimonial, and that I got a new client through that client that I served cheap, and I raised my price. And then I had 2 testimonials, and then that way I built it out, and then I could show testimonials even that I could prove that I've helped others. And I see now a question from Rina: how long ago was that? Well, I made a couple of iterations in my consulting business. I wasn't always consulting on exactly the same thing. So in the past 5 years, I had to do that almost 3 times, because I was all the time trying to deliver new services, different services. But the first time that I had to underprice myself was probably in 2019. Yeah, no, 2018 it was. Yeah. Yeah. So there's no shortcut to building a successful business. And the successful businesses that you hear is just the 0.1% that do it in such a short way. You don't hear the 2,000 people that took years to build it. Yeah, it's unfortunately long and consistent work. But if you love what you do and you love the process of building it out, and you're not doing it because you want the money, but you do it because you know that you have a real problem to a real solution, and it's exciting for you to solve that problem, the customers will come. Because in the end, as a consultant, the client wants to work with you also for your energy, not only for what you know.
Mr.
Yes,
Lim,
last question, Amir, and then we're gonna end the session today.
How much time I would need to make some good strength of people of following me and followers, and to create a community where I can offer my services, I can convince them to work with me and to work with my company or to work with someone I suggest. How much time required to build a handsome community?
I cannot answer how long it takes. I know that you need to do it every day. You need to be consistent. Consistency is the key. It's not about how fast you do it. But if you learn from others and you constantly adjust your process towards what works and what doesn't, the numbers will come. And it's not just about the numbers, because you want to have your customer as your followers and your connections. But you can, for free, LinkedIn, you can make business for free on LinkedIn. You have 100 invitations per week. So if you craft a good message, you can send it to 100 people, or spread it over the week. Maybe nobody will accept you. Great, then next week you need to rewrite your message a little bit. You send it again to 100 people. Okay, so 20 accepted. That's great. Now you have 20 people with whom you can start a conversation. Hey, thanks for accepting me. What made you actually accept what did you like about my message? What resonated with you? Okay, that and this, great. And then you have a conversation, and out of that, you start to learn what works and what doesn't, and then do more of what works, obviously. And that way you slowly build your community out. It's consistency.
And thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, everyone.
Yeah. Okay. I wish you good luck, Amir. All the best.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm out every day there, as you know. So yeah.
I am coming there.
Yeah, go to LinkedIn. This is the place to be.
Yes.
Super, guys. It was very much pleasure to serve you today here with the content. And you will get the recording as well. And as I said, next week, I'm also sending out like a very concrete summary about all these points for you to have as some content, some free stuff for you to look at. Okay. Wish you a great evening, everyone. And I hope to see you in one of my future events. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Bye.